The Formula One 2026 season is 2 races in, and we have seen a lot of changes. With 11 teams now on the grid and new regulations and what looks to be Mercedes dominance, welcome back to Penn State Sports Night. I'm Christina Rutherford, joined by Marina Contreiras and Sydney Coxe. Now, the 2026 season started 2 weeks ago in Australia. So far this season, we have seen Cadillac join the grid, Mercedes dominance, it seems, with all these wins, and the new regulations being implemented. What are your guys' thoughts so far on all of this?
Well, obviously, we saw new regulations. You mentioned new season. However, it's not new times. I'm still up at 2 and 3 o'clock in the morning to watch these races.
Yes.
But I will say they have been very exciting, very entertaining. In Australia, we saw 120 overtakes versus the previous year's 45. You can't really compare a rain race to a dry race, but there's a lot of overtaking. It's been exciting. On the flip side of that, for me, the regulations, it's a lot of engine. So really, the drivers are saving their engine, then they're going overtaking, which is why you're seeing so many of, like, it's not a natural overtake or like driver skill. It's more just like one passes and the other passes. We saw it this weekend with the Ferraris. Yes. Hamilton would overtake Leclerc, and then Leclerc overtakes Hamilton. It's back and forth and back and forth. Is it exciting? Yes. But it's also a little bit repetitive, and I don't know if I could do that like the whole season.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think these new regulations, they're definitely something, and I think as the season progresses, it will be something that we absolutely have to watch out for as teams are able to build and grow on what they already have. But we have teams that are in the back of the grid that we kind of expected. Cadillac's one of them. I mean, if we see the drivers, if we see the team, but it's also what we see in terms of these teams are struggling. They are struggling both with the battery power, like you said. It's just a back and forth. It's kind of not what we wanted to see.
Right.
But it's also, these teams are kind of don't know what's happening.
Yeah.
I mean, look at McLaren. McLaren did not start this race this weekend, as well as they were the Constructors' Championship last season, and now they are not racing.
Yeah. I think another shocker for me was Aston Martin with, you had Adrian Newey coming over, and you expect them to be top of the grid with this amazing design, world-class technical designer, and they are struggling. I mean, this weekend, Lance Stroll DNF'd on track, and then Fernando Alonso retired because the vibrations were so bad that his feet and his hands were hurting. He was going down the straights with his hands off the steering wheel. That's insane. Like,
it's crazy.
So, I mean, everyone's kind of wonky everywhere, but yeah.
Yeah, I mean, there's lots to expect, and we don't know what's coming. But so far, on Sunday, we saw Kimi Antonelli win his first Formula One race ever in China. Along with that, we saw 4 drivers not even start and 3 DNFs. I don't think I've seen that many in a while. So what are your guys' takeaways from this weekend's race in China?
I mean, I think this weekend was a great race. I think they definitely showed that this race was something that people were kind of wanting to see. I mean, obviously you mentioned the overtakes this weekend, but yeah, Kimi Antonelli on the podium. Yeah. I'd say this weekend was one for the underdogs. You had the Alpines doing well. That was one thing I took away from this weekend. You had Colapinto in 10th, Gasly, and I believe it was 5th or 6th. But then you also had Ollie Behrman in 5th. I mean, you had the Haas's doing well.
Absolutely.
You had just all these underdogs really all over the place. And like we said, the McLarens, nowhere to be seen.
Yeah.
You had Ferrari and you had Mercedes all the way up top. But there were all these fights going on in the middle. That was just back and forth, back and forth. It was a great race to
on
watch.
The broadcast.
Exactly, that weren't being shown on a broadcast.
There
was the fight up front, but all these other ones in this little tiny picture off to the side.
Yeah. I mean, you mentioned the 7 drivers DNFing. That included Max Verstappen. Again, 2 races for Red Bull, 2 DNFs, 2 engine problems. Same with McLaren. You have the 2 engine-related issues. I mean, I've seen so many jokes online of, like, Mercedes gave McLaren and Williams their engine, but didn't give them the manual, so they have no idea what they're doing.
Seems like it at this point.
It seems like it. But then, like you said, on the Kimi side, he's the youngest pole sitter, and he's the second youngest race winner, only behind Max Verstappen, which we don't see a lot anymore. And then you also have, like you said, so many underdogs. His whole half of his rookie class all in the points was unbelievable, and seeing Kimi on the podium with Lewis, who obviously replaced Lewis at Mercedes, and with Bono there, who's both of their race engineers,
was the
super
best
special.
podium you could have asked for for that race,
except for them announcing Kimi Räikkönen as he comes on.
Yeah, that was
crazy.
It was an interesting one.
So
It was definitely a throwback. I'll say that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but it was super special to see them together, and then in the press conferences, Lewis talking. He's like, "My first race win, super special." And Kimmy's like, "Yeah, I was one."
I was one.
I mean, he wasn't even born when the last Italian won a race.
Yeah,
No.
but it's been 20
It was
years.
special. It was definitely a weekend of stuff outside from the sprint. Sprint wasn't much to really.
Not much to go home about.
Yeah, not much to take note of.
Yeah.
So now that we've had China, up next we have Japan in 2 weeks, and it looks like there will be a month break for races wise, with the FIA calling off both the Bahrain and Saudi Arabia races. The original 24 race calendar is now just 22. What are your guys' thoughts on everything looking ahead and what the rest of the season will be?
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned the 2 races being canceled. Obviously, there's just so much unknown in the Middle East. It was not safe for the FIA to go there for any of its racing series, not just F1, but obviously F1 Academy races in Jeddah, but outside of the F1 race weekend. I think logistics-wise, it's going to be really interesting to see what teams ultimately decide to do, because they have a bunch of technology, a bunch of things that are stuck in Bahrain and stuck in Jeddah. So to kind of figure out logistics-wise if they're going to bring that stuff back to Europe, or I know we were mentioning this earlier, technically F1 and the FIA have said that they're postponed. They're not really fully canceled.
It's not canceled.
So we may see them come back in the fall, but I don't really see the break that we've seen to be able to put them in. So to see kind of what F1 ends up doing with that, but also like you mentioned, they're going to have like a month off. So I really, really hope that teams can use that. Teams like Red Bull, who are building their first engine for the first time, Audi, Cadillac, that can come and try to make steps so that when we head over to Miami in May, the field is tighter, because last year we saw some of the tightest racing we'd seen all year. We'd see like Q1, you see the whole field spread by 0.8 of a second. And now we see like 3 drivers at the top 3 0.8 of a second apart, because truly the way they're choosing to use their engine and the modes that they're able to take out, especially for Mercedes and Ferrari, is so superior to the rest of the grid that they're just really struggling.
And speaking of Mercedes and Ferrari, if they choose to use that time for development, or if the FIA even allows them to do that, because we don't really know what they're going to be able to do, but I think it makes sense to use this time for development, especially with these new regulations. I think if they choose that time for development, that Ferrari and Mercedes, are they going to get further ahead? Because we know that Ferrari is bringing an upgrade package to Japan.
Right.
So hopefully that will help them a little bit bounce up with Mercedes. But then along with that, all these other teams need to move up. Ferrari's problem is strategy. We know that, but obviously they are behind with Mercedes. It's always been strategy. It's always been. But all these other teams need to move up. They all are having problems. Red Bull has a problem, and it's not just one car anymore.
No.
It's both teams. All these teams are so behind. McLaren isn't even starting races. There is a problem, and they need to learn how to fix it.
Yeah.
Hopefully this gives them some time to do it.
It's a reliability championship, so we just got to see who can fix it first.
I really hope some things get fixed, because I mean, with McLaren, that was Lando's first DNS in his whole career. And there's been some shocking things, but we will have to wait and see if Mercedes can stay on top to claim another Constructors' Championship, and if George can win his first Drivers' Championship. With 20 races left in the season, and the next race 2 weeks away in Japan, there's a lot that can happen this season. For Marina Contreiras and Sydney Coxe, I'm Christina Rutherford. Thank you for watching Penn State Sports Night.
Hey everybody, thanks for tuning into this edition of Penn State Sports Night.
For more content like this, be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel, give us a like, and follow our socials down below.
And as always, we are
Penn State Sports Night.